2014 NHL Playoffs, first round, Eastern Conference is in the books. Let's do the Western. The Pacific Division champion Anaheim Ducks earned the right to play the number 2 wildcard team this year, which was the Dallas Stars. And kudos to the Stars on breaking a long playoff drought. Season series here was actually 2-1 Dallas, in which Dallas outscored Anaheim 11-9. The Ducks quietly boast the number 1 offense in hockey this year, generating 3.21 goals per game. They also rank within the top 10 in goals allowed per game at 2.48, ranking them 9th. Dallas also had a top 10 offense this year, generating 2.82 goals per game, but only ranked 17th in goals allowed with 2.72. Despite the fact that they had the number 1 offense in hockey this year, Anaheim's power play could best be described as weak sauce. They were only 16% on the power play this year, only ranking them 22nd in the NHL. One of the teams behind them in power play efficiency, however, was Dallas at only 15.9. Anaheim was in the top half of the league in penalty kill this year at 82.2%, while Dallas was only at 81.4, tying them for 19th. So special teams, nothing to write home about really for either one of these teams. Anaheim ranked within the top 10 in both shots per game and shots allowed per game at 8th and 9th respectively. While Dallas did rank well inside the top 10 in shots per game at 31.7 per game, they did allow 30.4, ranking them 18th. Major X factor here for Anaheim, I'm going to title this one Home Invasion. Anaheim needs to stay dominant at home. They've been dominant at home all season. They were 28-12 in Anaheim, while Dallas was only 17-23 on the road this year. So that is a huge advantage for Anaheim, and it's one they need to take advantage of. A major X factor for Dallas is going to be their ability to play disciplined on defense. They need to find ways to keep pucks away from, and in particular, out of their net. That begins and ends with their best player, and as far as I'm concerned, their best player is Kari Lehtinen. Do I think that's going to happen? No. No upset here, folks, unfortunately. I am taking the Anaheim Ducks in what should be a fairly, I don't want to say easy series for them, but it really shouldn't give them too much trouble. I'm going to take Anaheim to beat Dallas in 5 games. I think Anaheim wins games 1, 2, and 5 in Anaheim. I say they split the 2 games in Dallas, but that's enough for 4 games out of 5, and Anaheim moves on. The other Pacific Division matchup sees the number 2 ranked San Jose Sharks taking on the number 3 ranked Los Angeles Kings. The season series here was 3-2 Los Angeles, which saw the Kings outscore the Sharks 12-9. Both of these teams had top 5 defenses, statistically speaking, in the NHL this year. LA had the best goals allowed per game average in the league this year at just 2.05. San Jose's was 5th best at 2.35. But a major difference here is the scoring. While San Jose had a top 10 ranked offense this year at 2.92 goals allowed per game, Los Angeles only ranked 26th in the league this year in goals scored, only averaging 2.42 per game. Aside from San Jose's penalty killing, which did rank top 10 in the league this year, coming in at 6th with 84.9%, there wasn't really a whole lot to write home about on special teams for either one of these teams. Both teams ranked well outside the top half of the league in power play. Los Angeles was all the way down at 27th place in their power play this year, while LA failed to crack the top 10 in penalty kill this year at only 83.1%. But these two teams are both top 10 teams in terms of shots per game and shots allowed. San Jose generated the most shots per game this year at 34.8, while LA gave up the second fewest at 26.2. A huge X factor for San Jose in this series, as simple as it's going to sound, I'm going to quote Alex Ovechkin here, puck in net. They got to score. They're a top 10 offense this year. They only managed 9 goals in 5 games against LA this year. You gotta put the puck in the net. One of the huge X factors for LA is going to be their play at home in these playoffs. I'm going to call it Battle LA. Los Angeles was 23-18 at home this year. San Jose was 22-19 on the road. That's pretty much a wash as far as I'm concerned. LA's success is going to hinge on their ability to win in LA. It is a cardinal sin to pick the San Jose Sharks in the NHL playoffs. I don't think any franchise in the last 10 years has had more hype behind them just to have the fewest results in the playoffs. And yet, that's where I'm going. I'm going to take the San Jose Sharks to beat the LA Kings in a 7-game series. I think these two teams split the first 4 games of the series. They split games 1 and 2 in San Jose. They split games 3 and 4 in Los Angeles. Then I think it's a battle of the home teams. I think San Jose wins game 5. I think LA comes back and wins game 6. And I think San Jose wins game 7 on home ice to go to the second round. The Central Division winning Colorado Avalanche, yes, you heard that right, Central Division winning Colorado Avalanche, going from the number 1 overall pick last year to winning the Central Division. They are going to take on the top wildcard team in the Western Conference, the Minnesota Wild. The season series here was 4-1 for Colorado, seeing Colorado outscore Minnesota 16-11. Colorado had a top 5 offense this year, scoring 2.99 goals per game on average, while Minnesota gave up the 7th fewest goals per game in the league this year at just 2.42. So you got a classic battle there, offense versus defense. Because Colorado was only middle of the road in goals allowed, tying for 14th with 2.63 allowed, and Minnesota's offense was not very good this year, tying for 24th in the league, only scoring 2.43 goals per game. Special teams, neither one of these teams on the penalty kill this year ranked inside the top 20 in the league, but Colorado's power play was tied for 5th best at 19.8%. Kind of the same deal in terms of shooting. Shots per game and shots allowed, really nothing to write home about. Neither team ranked inside the top 20 in average shots per game, but Minnesota did allow the 5th fewest shots on goal per game at just 27.7. Major X factor here for Colorado is the intimidation factor. They won 4 of the 5 games this year. They averaged over 3 goals per game in those games against Minnesota. They need to reflect that high percentage offense in this series. Because again, they weren't high up there in shots, but they were high up there in average goals per game. So that is a high percentage offense. They need to reflect that in this series. And in Minnesota's case, one of their biggest X factors, they got to be boring. What do I mean by that? They got to keep these games low scoring, low shooting. They got to play the trap. They got to be defense first. They got to take advantage of the few opportunities that they're going to get against a Colorado team that, for all its good qualities, is young. Hey, most people call Georges St-Pierre boring, and he was the welterweight champion for a million years. Do I think Minnesota's going to be able to do that? No. I think this is going to be essentially a cakewalk for Colorado. Still no upsets in the Western Conference. I think Colorado walks all over Minnesota in this series. I think Colorado beats Minnesota in 5 games. Same deal with Anaheim and Dallas. I think Colorado wins the first 2 games in Colorado. I think they split games 3 and 4 in Minnesota. Colorado comes back on home ice, wins game 5, and wins the series. And here we are, folks, the 4th and final series in the Western Conference, the other Central Division series, where Central Division number 2, St. Louis Blues, are taking on Central Division number 3, Chicago Blackhawks. The season series here saw St. Louis win 3 of the 4 games, but Chicago outscore St. Louis 13-12. And these are 2 of the elite franchises in the NHL this year. St. Louis tied for 6th best offense in the league at 2.92 goals per game. Chicago with the 2nd best offense in the league at 3.18. St. Louis was also phenomenal this year at keeping the puck out of their own net, only giving up 2.29 goals per game, ranking them 3rd in the league. Special teams also quite good for both of these teams. St. Louis was tied for the 5th best power play in the league at 19.8%, where Chicago was tied for the 9th best power play in the league at 19.5%. St. Louis also boasting an 85.7% penalty kill, which was the 2nd best in the league. Chicago did struggle a little bit on the PK this year, only tying for 19th at 81.4%. St. Louis also had trouble getting pucks on net this year. They only averaged 29.3 shots per game, which ranked them 22nd in the league. They did, however, allow the 3rd fewest shots per game at only 26.4. Chicago was elite on both levels, top 5 in the NHL in shots per game as well as shots allowed per game, ranking 3rd and 4th respectively. A big X factor here for St. Louis? Confidence, or lack thereof. St. Louis needs to refine the swagger, and yes, I'm going to liberal use of the word swagger. They need to refine that. They need to find that confidence that saw them go 49-16-7 throughout this season, not the swagger and the confidence that had them go 3-7 down the stretch. Huge X factor here for the Blackhawks is a smoldering and smothering defense. Chicago needs to take full advantage of their ability to prevent shots versus St. Louis's problem getting shots to the net, keep these games low scoring and physical, and grind out a St. Louis team that really is lacking confidence right now. And I actually think they're going to do that. I like the playoff experience. I like the big game players on this team. I think Chicago wins this series. I'm going to take Chicago to beat St. Louis. I think they're going to take it in 6 games. I think they split games 1 and 2 in St. Louis, but I think Chicago wins games 3 and 4 on home ice to take a 3-1 series lead. I think St. Louis wins game 5 in St. Louis to extend the series. Chicago wins it on home ice in game 6. So that's the Western Conference, folks. I am predicting the Pacific number 1 Anaheim Ducks to beat wildcard number 2 Dallas Stars in 5 games. I'm taking Pacific number 2 San Jose to beat Pacific number 3 Los Angeles in 7 games. I think that's going to be a barn burner of a series. That's probably going to be the series to watch in the Western Conference. Central number 1 Colorado, I think they're going to walk all over the top wildcard team Minnesota. I think they win that series in 5 games. And Central number 2 versus Central number 3, I'm going to take the underdogs here, the defending Stanley Cup champion, Central number 3 Chicago Blackhawks, to beat the St. Louis Blues in 6 games. So ladies and gentlemen, if all of my predictions come to pass, here are your second round matchups. So that's how I think round 1 of the playoffs is going to go down. How do you think round 1 of the playoffs is going to go down? Let me know in the comments section of both this video and the Eastern Conference video. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and thank God, playoff hockey is back. Oh, and one more thing. Go Moose, go.